Hello and thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about the long forgotten music of the Palestinian uprising of 1987.
من البلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة أنا من القدس 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 من البلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع
That was a song called I'm From Jerusalem, recorded at the time of the first Intifada or uprising. It was one of the many songs that's been lost for more than 30 years. That was until now. At the start of the pandemic, London-based Palestinian actor, filmmaker and music producer Mo'min Swaitat discovered it among 10,000 tapes in the West Bank. He spent 8 months listening to them, making it his mission to digitise and re-release this window into the past. And he joins us from London. Mo'min, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us the story of how you discovered this music.
I was on a trip with the film crew from Germany, from Munich Film Fund. So we were going to do a research to write a new documentary about my former teacher, Giuliano Merkhamis, who were assassinated outside the Freedom Theater in 2011, who's my mentor. Lockdown started, and then I stayed in Palestine for 8 months. And then I went through a childhood memory into a journey to my memory, basically. And then part of this memory it was always a big part of it in music, as I'm a Palestinian Bedouin growing up, always listening to my family music around the 80s. And so I was looking for my family archive in the first place, and then I came across this Palestinian archive from the first Intifada. And this is the first to be highlighted, which is the Intifada album by Riad Awwad and co-written by Hanan Awwad, his sister, and then Mahmoud Darwish, the famous Palestinian poet.
Tell us why this was such a special discovery.
As a Palestinian, we are completely being disattached and dismantled as a society and as a community because of 72 years of colonization and being displaced. We don't have a very strong attached culture to our own identity as a Palestinian. So this is why it's important, because this is connecting over 10 million Palestinians to their identity, to their real identity, which is formed from culture, poetry, music, cinema, architecture, landscape, and all of that.
And during the Intifada, most of the 3,000 tapes created were confiscated by the Israeli forces, apparently because they feared the lyrics mentioning Molotov cocktails and throwing stones would incite violence. What are the lyrics about?
Well, this tape specifically is talking and exploring the landscape of Palestine, his childhood memory, the memory of displacement, of course, as well as talking about the right of resistance in Palestine. I mean, if you want to compare of somebody throwing stones to Molotov and somebody throwing a rocket from F-16, that's like, there's no comparison here. There's no reason to take those 3,000 copies and cut them off from distribution.
Now, the musician who made the music, Riad Awwad, paid a high price for his art. He was detained for several months. After his release, he carried on with music before he sadly died in a car accident in 2005. Now you're bringing his music back to life. You brought it back to London and you formed a label that's called the Majaz Project. You released Awwad's Intifada album at the end of last year. Tell us about your mission with this music and the label.
So basically, the label, the Majaz Project, it's born because of the archive. It's born from the archive itself. The mission of this project is to protect and to prevent the Palestinian archive, audio and visual, and also to bring them, to give them a new life, and to bring them back to the to the mainstream or to the music streaming platforms like Bandcamp, Spotify, or also YouTube. And at the same time, also sample them and play them in the nightclubs and across the world. You know, like in London, in Paris, and New York. Which is we have a radio show now on NTS where we invite artists every month to sample those archives and to bring them from like sort of Palestinian traditional music into like electronic immersive music.
And the vinyl version of the album is due to be launched in April. There's been a lot of demand. Now, Mo'min, you're also a filmmaker. You've made a short film that's called Stones in Hand. What can you tell us about that?
It's about the tastelessness of being a Palestinian, heavily with a lot of memory and images and pictures, and living in London. I have this feeling when I walk around London street. I always have these pictures coming through my brain of the first Intifada and the second Intifada, and as well as of my family Bedouin music. So I always have this feeling. So I felt like I need to bring out this feeling into a visual or an object.
And your film will be showing at Dubai's Real Palestine Film Festival later this month. The festival celebrates Palestinian stories. Another film showing that's in French cinemas at the moment is Little Palestine, Diary of a Siege. It's a documentary following the story of the people of the Yarmouk camp in Damascus. After the Syrian revolution breaks out, the Bashar al-Assad regime besieges the camp, which provides refuge for more than 100,000 Palestinians, cutting it off from the outside world. The film is by a former resident of the camp, Abdullah al-Khatib. Let's take a look.
مرة ثانية طلعنا نحن ومجموعة من الهلال الأحمر ومجموعة من مؤسسات الغسيل استلام الطرود من حاجز البويضة. هاي المرة الثانية بنفشل فيها. ضغطة مرتفع. لا أما. انتهى 16 على 10 ضغطة. هاتي رياتها.
لك يا جماعة دواء. Medicine, we need medicine. Where are you, Red Cross?
Mo'min, do you think we're starting to hear more Palestinian voices on the world's cultural landscape?
We see a big shift of young people who starting to understood the propaganda, the machine propaganda of telling the wrong story all the time. There's no wrong, there's no right, but there is a propaganda against the Palestinian. And now we're starting to correct a few words here, like for example, saying mentioning what happening in Palestine and Israel as a conflict is a completely politically incorrect because it's not equal. Or calling it a war, it's not equal. You know, war is between two strong countries fighting each other. International platforms should open for the young Palestinian voices to be heard.
And Mo'min, we've got some images actually of a pro-resistance television series that's being filmed in Hamas's TV studios in Gaza. Olivia Salazar-Winspear has more on the show, which is called Fist of the Free. Take a listen.
The Star of David on the flag, glimpses of Hebrew text and photos of Zionist leaders. It all suggests we're in Israel, yet this scene is being filmed in the heart of Gaza. These Palestinian studios provide the set for a series singing the praises of the resistance movement. They've recreated the offices of the Israeli administration with props, a way for Hamas, the political wing of the armed Islamist group, to present their side of the story.
The more people hate me, the more I know that my character is believable. And if I provoke Palestinian people here in the street, then I know the character is a success.
These Made in Gaza TV series are a response to the wave of Israeli productions of recent years, most notably Fauda, which translates as chaos in Arabic. The Netflix hit focuses on a group of Israeli special forces who go undercover to investigate Palestinian suspects. Yet in Gaza, some say this depiction simply serves to paint Palestinians as criminals.
We want an alternative model to show the Palestinian point of view and make fictional series with a spirit of resistance in the same way that other channels produce Zionist fabrications.
In this series, then, the heroes are not IDF soldiers but Hamas fighters. considered to be terrorists by Israel, the US and the EU, while on the small screen, at least, they're the stars of the show.
Now, Mo'min, with local productions in Gaza being so rare, do you think the conflict is the right thing to focus on for a TV series?
Well, I mean, if you ask me about myself and my work, I love my work to be around sci-fi and completely very fictionalized the situation in Palestine. I'm really happy that they have a studio film something like this. They need a studio. They need films. They need to let go with over over 18 years of the largest prison in this planet. There's two-side narrative here, of course, and you can sense it very strongly. And we don't feel like as a Palestinian we only like resisting against the Israeli. We feel like we are resisting against British and the American and the French and the German and the European Union in general. And this is very important for people to know.
Mo'min, it's such a complicated subject, so much to talk about, and we're out of time. But just before we go, we always end our show with our guests' cultural pick of the moment. You've chosen to highlight the work of Palestinian-Canadian rapper Belly, who's been working with The Weeknd. Tell us why you've chosen him.
Well, me and Belly, we have grew up in the same neighborhood, and I know his family, I know his cousin. I'm in the same school in Jenin, just before the second Intifada kicked off. I really love his music, so this is why I choose him. And he have released an amazing album recently, Flowers, for example, his latest music video, a few other with The Weeknd. So yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to leave you with Die For It. Mo'min Swaitat, thank you so much for joining us to talk about the Intifada album 1987 by Riad Awwad. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
If this is what it is, then I'll die for it. If this is what it is, then I'll die for it. If this is what it is, then I'll die for it.
I remember sleeping on floors and missing tours, I was rock bottom. Money on my head, that was top dollar.